Welcome to Holistic Kid Show. My name is Zane.
And my name's Abdullah.
We're here. We're the Holistic Kids here to educate us kids from the inside out. Living in a household of 6 boys and only 2 girls, my mom likes to tell us she's surrounded by testosterone and needs her estrogen trip. Whatever that means. Does that mean that she needs a girl trip?
With more boys than ever in jail, diagnosed with ADHD and even autism, we are super excited to talk to our next guest, as we are going to talk about all things boys, and more specifically talking about turning boys into healthy men. Not supermen, but health doesn't come from living in your bat cave and fighting crime.
But healthy men and boys will benefit society and not destroy it. But most importantly, they will be able to deal with emotions, stress, and impulses to become more resilient or whatever life will throw at them.
Dr. Jerry Bailey is a prominent expert on men's medicine and leads the world in the emerging science of Poly-Hormonal. How do you spell
Poly-Hormonal Adrenal Testosterone Syndrome. Also known as fat syndrome. We call it fat syndrome for short. Makes it a lot easier to say.
Okay, or fat syndrome for short. He is an acclaimed speaker, former clinical and graduate educator, one of few practicing experts, and is considered a leading authority on men's health. He holds degrees in chiropractic, acupuncturist, and masters of science in human nature and national medicine on functional medicine. He, along with his physician wife, have been the top functional natural medicine practice in the inland northwest for 5 years running. Their clinic is at the forefront of cutting-edge evidence informed practice, along with the development of new protocols to aid in reversing the most of the chronic illness and hormone imbalances seen today.
Welcome, Dr. Jerry. Thank you for joining us today.
Hey, thanks for having me, boys. I'm excited to be here to talk about, boy stuff as we lead into men and how to get you guys be healthy guys.
We would love to know how a chiropractor goes from backs to dealing with men's health. We would love to hear your story.
Yeah, chiropractors aren't just about joints and cracking backs and cracking shoulders and elbows and fingers and toes and all those things. We're really the forefront for a long time of health in general. Research has shown for a lot of chiropractic, for people under just strict chiropractic care itself, getting adjusted, getting their spines adjusted or manipulated there, are actually healthier overall than the average population that sees a primary care physician. Most of that's because people who do alternative or functional medicine usually take care of themselves better. So they don't just rely on a pharmaceutical to get them better. They actually take control of their health themselves and really program their life to be healthier by doing things to get them healthier. So how does a chiropractor become well known in men's health? Well, it's a passion of mine. From my childhood on, I was always how to better myself, both health and physically and mentally in that process. And it just was a natural progression in learning different things. I added acupuncture in to help with that process. And then I added functional medicine, earning that master's in human nutrition and functional medicine. Then I went back to teaching the program about hormones and neurotransmitters. So all the little hormones in your body, testosterone, like you had said there, and estrogen. Your mom needs her estrogen fixed with your sisters there, getting away from all that testosterone, that madness in the house that goes crazy through there. And so it's a natural progression in doing things to really look at the body, not just from one aspect, but from a wide array of different ways. When we adjust the spine, in particular along your back, when we're adjusting those joints, those are actually acupuncture points also. So we're not only stimulating the joints to get them to move and the nervous system to function better, we're actually stimulating acupuncture points to heal the body.
Kids today are getting sick. But the statistics for boys are even scarier, as boys are more likely to be diagnosed with ADHD and autism. Why do you think boys are more affected than girls?
Boys go through more inflammatory phases in their nervous system through growth. From infants on up, at different phases, we get these little spurts of testosterone that kick our system and create inflammation in the brain and through the body. And in doing so, it irritates the nervous system a little bit. And so we get a little more hyperactive, a little more attention deficit in there. And then so that causes a lot of that ADHD type scenario that normally boys have a little hyperactivity there. But what we're seeing is that food choices that mom makes and dad makes prior to birth and what you're exposed to while in mom's belly, and then foods that if mom's breastfeeding or not through there, or foods you're taking in can increase inflammation in the body. They've shown that the sooner a child is exposed to whole foods or foods in general out of the womb, the more likely they're going to show or experience food sensitivities or food allergies that actually increase nervous brain irritation in the system, which lead to ADHD. Autism is another spectrum within there that we're not quite sure the causes, but we see it from the nervous inflammation, the brain inflammation itself through there, along with foods and other things that increase the reactivity. With ADHD and some of the PANDAS, which is another diagnosis we're currently seeing, it's always a long one, but it's basically neurological inflammation from a strep infection, usually in the body somewhere. What we see is that it's actually in the digestive tract itself. It's in the gut. And so we can actually run, and I see this in boys and girls. Boys a little more particular, it affects the nervous system. We believe it's because of the testosterone, because that's such a irritant to the system during growth, which is normal, but it just inflames things a little bit. So we see these from doing a stool test, which is fun for you guys to do. You guys know what a stool test is?
Yes.
Yeah, I'm sure your mom probably have you do one or two in your life, maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what it is you as a client or yourself there, you take your stool, your poo through there, and they send it into the lab. And then we look at what's growing in there. When we see what's growing, often there's a strep bacteria overgrowth in that GI tract and that gut that creates inflammation. The research shows that overgrowth of strep really irritates the nervous system. Not only see it in young boys, I see it in adult men too now. And so I get some adult men that come in and go, all of a sudden they're like, man, I got this anxiety, I got this depression, I got this just general, I'm hyper and anxious, and I don't really know why it came out of nowhere. We'll do the stool test and we'll actually see on them too that they have a strep infection also. So we'll treat that and they get better.
Lots of boys are known for their anger. What does a boy's mood and anger have to do with his health? Are boys just naturally angry?
No, they're not naturally angrier than girls itself. But again, we're talking about that wonderful little molecule called testosterone that eventually makes us men. Is as kids, little kids, and even up to your guys' age, preteen and teen years, is you don't know how to really recognize what's going on in your body. And so the outbursts or anger becomes part of that process because you're not understanding what you're experiencing at that point in time. As we get older as guys, we tend to go, okay, I can see that I just don't feel good, or my head kind of hurts, or things like that. But as kids, you just don't necessarily recognize it. And so you get up kind of angry about it. You get outbursts about it in those processes. But, it's not that you're more angrier. It's just that the system's irritated and you're not quite sure how to react to it. But if it's a lot of anger and a lot of outbursts in those scenarios, then we have to step back and go, okay, what's going on in this young boy's life? Is there some home issues that could be going on? How are they eating? What are they eating? What's the health of their body? Maybe again, looking at the stool test there, the poo test for you guys through there, or some of the other things that's available to go, what is the underlying reason why you're experiencing what you're experiencing, and see if we can't correct it. I can count countless boy after boy that I see that exactly what you're saying there, kind of has outbursts, can't control themselves, little ADHD within that process, having some problems in school. It usually comes down to how they're eating, what they're eating and drinking. If they're a lot of soda drinkers or juice drinks or sugary foods, all that stuff that's bad for you, that's just, occasionally having something like that, totally okay. But when it becomes a regular thing in your diet, what you're eating and drinking every day, it's not so good. Think of your body as a little fire kind of sitting there, a little flame kind of burning there, and then you pour that sugar on there or that pour food. It's like gasoline going on the fire. That just makes it flame up, makes our system more inflamed, causes more irritation to the system there. So a lot of the boys we see, we work on diet right away. We get them on probiotics, which are good little microbes in our system that we need, little powders to take that they usually say don't taste too bad. They actually taste pretty good in there. And then we figure out what's going on and correct it. And often within a few weeks to a month, they're doing significantly better and they're feeling much better. Their mood has improved. They're not having the outbursts. They're able to control their emotions and their processes a lot better. So they are able to be calm in those times when normally they're like, wah, and going crazy, which I'm sure you boys don't do that at all, right?
No.
No.
Anyways, so as you said, testosterone is a boy's hormone. How does testosterone affect our health?
Well, it is pretty humorous too. So through there. But it's the hormone itself. And how does it affect health? It's our hormone that makes us men. Makes us go through puberty, get the hair growing in spots, that we see, hair in the armpits, for some guys, hair's on the back too, in that process there. But it helps to make us grow, gets our muscles bigger, our muscles bigger and stronger, our bones bigger and stronger, we get taller in height, our voices start to change, we get what I always call, and you boys are way too young to know this, your mom may know it though, the Peter Brady effect where the voice crackles a little bit. It's from the old Brady Bunch TV show. I'm sure you have no idea what I'm talking about. Your mom might at that point. But it's a funny old thing. You can if you YouTube Peter Brady voice, you'll get it. It's when the voice cracks a little bit in that process. So testosterone helps us to grow into men, and testosterone is really good for us. It's good for our health as men. Too much is not good, and too little is not good. We used to think that as men grew and we aged, what happened was testosterone naturally started to drop. And it does, but what we're seeing is it's dropping too much and it's dropping too early. So we're talking men in their 70s and 80s will see a lower testosterone. It should be that way. What we're seeing is for the last 15, 20 years, it was men in their 50s and 40s. And now we're actually seeing, which you're the older one there, you're not too far away from, boys in their 20s and young men in their 20s are actually seeing lower testosterone levels, which is pretty scary to think about. We need that testosterone as men to help make us men, help our brain function better, help our body function better, help our body grow. But we're seeing that low testosterone, and in doing so, that's creating a whole issue that we're learning about as we go along of what low testosterone long-term does to men from that. So testosterone is very important. It's very good for us. Too much of a good thing, yes. Too little of a good thing, too, in that same scenario. Sometimes what doctors do when we see low testosterone is they'll just give somebody testosterone. Not a good thing. We don't want to give somebody testosterone just to give to them because it may be low. We want to know why it's low. Is it a brain issue? Is it a pituitary, which is a little organ within the brain that does releasing hormones that goes to an organ? Does it go to the testes? Do the testes themselves produce the testosterone because that's where it's produced in boys and men? Is it a receptor issue on the cells where that testosterone is supposed to go? Or is it a breakdown issue in the liver itself, breaking it down too quickly or too slowly? So we have to look at all those spots in there to figure out where the issue is and then correct it and retest to see, do you need testosterone or don't you need testosterone? For kids your age, no, you don't need to do testosterone. But what I am seeing in boys, particularly my early teens, preteens and early teens, with the testing we're seeing is actually low testosterone and high estrogen. High estrogen in the system actually irritates the brain in boys too. So it's not always the testosterone issue that's the problem. It's that high estrogen that causes those issues in boys. A little bit of estrogen is good. It's protective for our nervous system. Too much in men, ADHD, irritation to the brain.
Are there other hormones that influence boys' health?
As we just talked about, estrogen Estrogen is one right there. That's an issue that can affect. That's good for us, but can be bad for us in that process there. Thyroid hormone itself, which is a growth hormone and energy-producing hormone, we can see effects on that itself. The stress response. So in the adrenals itself, our stress response, our fight or flight response that we have. So when you get that kind of scared, like somebody goes boom and scares you, you get that kind of startle reflex, and you're like, get me out of here. You're like, let's fight. So that reflex right there is really important, and it can be overly taxed in the system. So if we have too much of stress going on, particularly if we look at kids who have hard lives and, not a great home life, or being bullied a lot too, that their testosterone can actually decrease because they're stressed out. And so that's why it's good if we're seeing bullying go on, we want to stop it. We want to get right in there and help and protect those kids and get those bullies to stop doing that stuff, because it's not good for the health of the community, and definitely the kids that are being bullied right there too, because it can cause long-term effects, not only hormonally and how their body's growing, but also in the brain too. So those are kind of the big ones we look at. Cortisol is the stress hormone that we look at. That is that stress response, that fight or flight response through there is the one we look at how it can cause issues in the body too.
Awesome. Wow. There is so much going on inside our bodies and brains. What can we do as boys today to become healthy men with healthy brains, bodies, and emotions?
Great question. Your questions are so awesome there. I think the biggest things that we can always do, it really comes down to the basics, is eat right, exercise, brush your teeth, clean yourself, listen to what mom and dad say. I mean, the basics of everything. That's through life. If you keep those basics going of eating good foods, whole foods, if it's a whole vegetable, a whole fruit, it's probably good for you. I know as kids you're like, vegetables, they're not great for me. They're really good for you. Try them. There's lots of different ways you can season them and bake them and saute them and blend them up in a blender for like a smoothie is really good to do, like a vegetable smoothie. Those are really good. My boys like those. We put a little, apple or orange in there too to kind of get some of the bitterness that vegetables can have in there. Veggie smoothies are really, really, really good to do for kids. Plus, it's a good way to sneak it in so you don't know what's happening. A lot of times that way, we parents do that. Sneak stuff into you through there. So that's really the key there. Good protein, good meat within that process also is really, really good to do. Good clean meat, preferably organic or wild caught within there is what we recommend. Because you want, a lot of times with conventionally grown farmed animals is they're really high in saturated fat. Saturated fat can be good to us, so it's a fat that's just really dense, and it's not really that great for us overall. A little bit of it's okay, too much is a bad thing. So we have to watch that, and then there's other fats within that farmed food, that conventional farmed food that's pro-inflammatory. It inflames our system, inflames our brain, causes issues with our hearts and lungs and our blood vessels, and we just don't want that. And so getting good foods in that way, occasionally having, bad foods, having some sweets, having some treats is okay. We don't want to feel that we're, negating ourselves or blocking ourselves from enjoying these things. But a lot of times what happens is when you're eating really healthy, and you boys might notice this yourselves and your audience might notice this, if you're eating really healthy and then you try some, bad foods or the not so great foods, the little treat things, we tend to not feel good from it. It kind of makes us feel a little bloaty, like our belly's kind of sticking out. We get a little stomach ache or headache, or we get a little grumpy in that process. So then we know that that's probably not something we want to eat overall. But, occasionally having some cake or pie or a treat of some sort is really good. And there's different ways that you can actually make those that make them a little healthier. I've made peanut butter cups, like peanut butter cups. Yeah, you guys are like, peanut butter cups.
Yeah.
You can make healthy peanut butter cups. And use natural peanut butter, a little bit of honey, and then you can freeze that in the freezer a little bit for a while so it gets more solid. And you can roll it into little balls, about an inch or so or a little smaller. And then you can melt some natural organic chocolate morsels, little chocolate chips. And then you take that frozen peanut butter with a I almost said Q-tip, but it's not a Q-tip, a toothpick. A Q-tip, a little fuzzy Q-tip put in there, a little toothpick put in there, and move it around in the chocolate. So if it gets coated in chocolate, put it on a nice plate with some paper on there, some cooking paper on there, parchment paper, and then put it back in the freezer and it freezes. Then you have a nice little, basically chocolate and peanut butter ball that's actually better for you.
We love to make substitutes for other foods ourselves.
Yeah, we really do.
Good.
We also love veggie smoothies, like you talked about. We make them almost every day.
Good. That's good. It's a good way to get vegetables in. 'Cause a lot of times it's the texture, or it's sometimes the flavor. They're crunchy or mushy within that process. What phase you're in your growth process there to see what your preferences are. So smoothies are a good way to do that, because you can also heat it up and use it as a soup too if you like soup.
With 4 boys in our house, it can get crazy. But what tips do you have for parents to help their own sanity?
Leave the house. Leave the kids at home. Just go away. They'll be fine. That's the biggest thing now. You're like, yes, I like this guy. Mom, we need to have a lot more. No, I think the big thing for parents to do is get times away as best you can. Schedule time. If you don't schedule times, it's not going to happen. Getting a sitter, whether it's a neighbor kid who's who's experienced and has the training to babysit and has CPR certifications there, a certified babysitter. Most of the Red Crosses train kids that way to be certified babysitters, or friends that you can switch off and on with too. It sounds like you have a small house with only a few kids in it, so it shouldn't be a problem finding a sitter for you guys at all, right? But getting away and for the parents and enjoying themselves and reconnecting with themselves is really key. Often life gets in the way of living. I like to say and use that. We get so busy as parents and doing things that we forget that we need time for ourselves too. And kids understand that too. We're here to help you grow and become these amazing adults, like you said, just amazing adults, not necessarily superhuman, but really good human adults there. And we need that time to connect with ourselves, with our spouses, along with just getting away and getting some sanity back into our head. Letting them, great gifts for you guys to buy parents for Christmas is a spa day. Send mom and dad to the spa. Let them get massages. Let them chill. Do those things. Facials, mani and pedis. Hey, my boys actually have a 14-year-old and 11-year-old. They like to go get their nails and toes done. So we go. The 3 of us will go. We'll send my wife earlier, and then the boys and I will go get our nails done there. Now we don't get them painted, of course. We get them, just nicely cleaned up and everything and buffed, and it's a nice little, half hour to an hour time sitting there getting things done, and it's an enjoyable time for me to hang out with my boys. And for mom to have personal time for herself.
Kids are dealing with so much stress these days. Kids are dealing with so much stress these days. What is the best way for kids to stress manage?
Right, to manage their stress, get outside and yell. Not in the house. Go outside, run around, be crazy. That is so helpful. Studies have shown that if if we get outside and scream and yell like we used to as a kids, we actually boost our testosterone levels and we actually feel better. So that getting outside, getting that energy out, because as adults and kids, we get so stuck in our head that we get stressed out there. We got to get out of our head and get into our body. So getting outside, getting movement, running around, playing on the playground, tackling each other, boys, doing the stuff that mom says don't do, all those things, wrestling around, all important to de-stress the body, because we get out of our head and into the physical body, which is really beneficial overall. So that's really good too. Like I said too, hey, kids can get massages, get a massage, and then get your nails done, boys. That's good for you too. In that process. But those are good ways to deal with stress is just find ways that you enjoy things, something that you enjoy, getting outside, going for a hike in nature, going for a walk, walking the family dog is good too, as long as they're not cranking and pulling on you the whole time. Playing ball with the dog is really good too, petting the cat. If you're one of those families that have, reptiles, lizards or snakes or anything like that, and you like having those are good relaxation. I had those when I was in college. Or if you have aquariums, the same thing. Fish is really relaxing. That sound of just the water going relaxes the system. And those are all really good tips to do that. The big thing is get outside and play. Kids don't do that enough. Kids, and you guys, sit at home, play video games. They're just like, the video game zombies. And that's not good for us. We get up in our head and we end up getting emotional and aggressive with it. Get outside, burn off that energy, and get back into the body.
What do you talked about getting outside, but what do you recommend to parents if their boys are too aggressive, unable to concentrate, angry all the time, or just want to punch stuff all the time?
I think your mom sneaked this one in on me for you, good. No, you guys aren't that way, I'm sure. That's a good one. That's a good question. They really get them to a qualified provider, not just one that's going to put them on medications, because medications aren't always the answer. We want to be able to know what, again, like I talked earlier about the brain, the pituitary, the testes, the receptors on the cells, and the liver. Do some testing. Find a great functional medicine practitioner who's going to look at the kid as a whole and not just go, it's a brain issue, let's put them on a medication. Find a practitioner in your area that's going to help find what's going on with the child and then figure out how you can balance their system or fix your system if something's going on. That's really, really key, because often you're going to find it's a couple things. One, something's going on in their life that they don't know how to deal with. It could be at school, a bully like we talked about earlier. Something could be going on at home, or just in general, there's something going on with their system, either dietarily wise or digestive wise, that's creating this inflammation in the system. Could be genetic too, and you can do testing for that. And then making sure they're figure out what the problem is and then correcting it. That's what you need to do, is find that practitioner, usually a functional medicine physician who knows what they're doing and knows how to look at you as a whole versus just looking at you as a pinpoint section in your body.
Sleeping is so boring, but my mom keeps telling us it's important. Can't sleep help balance, boys?
Oh my gosh, yes. How do you feel when you don't get enough sleep?
Tired.
Okay, and when you feel tired, what happens?
I want to lay on my bed.
Yeah, do you get in trouble a little bit more when you're tired?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. Does mom and dad voices go up a few notches when they're talking to you?
Yes.
Yeah.
Or, as I always tell my boys, does mean dad and mom come out at that time?
Not all the time.
No, but mean mom and dad come out. So my boys always call it mean mom and dad. And I always say, listen, you guys as kids are in total control of mean mom and dad. Mean mom and dad don't want to come out at all. They want to stay inside because we don't like them. But kids are in control of mean mom and dad coming out. So if you don't get enough sleep, you get tired, you get a little grouchy, you don't want to listen as well, you kind of, I don't want to do nothing, I want to sit here. Then mean mom and dad come out and you get in trouble. So the more sleep you can get at your guys' age, 12 hours. I mean, close to 12 hours of sleep is really beneficial for you. I make sure my boys, even at my 14-year-old, I'm like, we got to get upstairs by 8:15, 8:30, so you guys are in bed by 9 o'clock, because 7 o'clock comes early, and that's 10 hours roughly of sleep for them. And so 10 to 12 hours for most kids is pretty normal for healthy emotion and healthy balance in their system.
What can boys start today to help themselves turn into healthy men with healthy emotions?
We covered a lot of that. Sleep, we just talked about. Eating really well, making sure you're getting good foods in, getting exercise, getting stress reduction in that process, getting outside, and then play. Play is so important there. And you can really say within that process, play brings out our imagination. And imagination is so key in development because it allows us to create scenarios around us and then allows us to make up decisions during that time. And it helps us make good decisions and bad decisions for future aspects of our life. So play is so important for kids too. So play, exercise, eating right, sleep, and stress management through there, in eating your vegetables and your fruits in that process. I think those are all key things that kids can do to really start on the way to being healthy as kids and then really being super healthy as they become adults.
Wow, Dr. Jerry, that was so much fun. You were so inspirational. Where can we learn you and your work?
Sure. So you can learn more from me. You can go to my clinic's website, Lakeside Holistic holistic.com. Lots of information there, and you can sign up for our newsletter that we send out often, and all the things we do here at our clinic. We do a ton of different things. You can also find me on Instagram at Lakeside Holistic, or you can find me at Dr. Jerry Bailey on Instagram also. So those are kind of the big ways to find us to learn more about what I do, how I help kids and adults become healthier and really optimize and become the superhumans they want to be.
To recap Dr. Jerry's key tips,
boys can be real superheroes by actually taking care of their bodies. When you take care of your body, you can actually make our brains and hormones work better. So it is all about the balance. When boys are angry all the time, unable to concentrate, unable to control their energy, irritable, or even not listening to directions, that could be a sign that the boy's body is out of balance. So we need to put our bodies and hormones back into balance by
eat right, exercise, brush your teeth, clean yourself, and listen to your parents. Limit or eliminate sugar, processed foods, artificial foods, junk foods, as these will only weaken your body and throw our hormones out of balance. Focus on real foods. Eat the rainbow with veggies, clean protein, fruit, and healthy fat. It is okay to have sweets, but we usually use healthy ingredients like honey to make delicious treats, like Dr. Jerry's peanut butter chocolate balls. Try a smoothie to hide the veggies. These foods will give your body and brain what it needs to stay healthy, focused, build hormones, and stay balanced.
Kids and adults are more stressed today than ever before. So go outside and yell and scream and get that energy out. Get outside and exercise and play. That will help to lower stress and increase testosterone.
Sleep is so important to build and balance hormones. Though sleep can be boring, it is really needed to make sure our insides stay balanced, and that then affects our mood and our behavior through the day. So it is important to get around 10 to 12 hours of sleep for health and emotions, and balance in their systems.
Wow, Dr. Jerry, that was amazing. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Oh, thanks for having me, guys. It's been awesome. You're such great interviewers. I can tell you're never a problem for your mom and dad whatsoever. You're the best behaved kids ever through there. But like I said, if mom and dad don't like mean mom and dad coming out, but you guys are in complete control of that. The better you eat, the better you take care of yourself, the better you help around the house, even too. I always tell my boys, how many times do I have to say something? One time. I have to say it 2 or 3 times, there's a problem there going on. So we want to make sure if you do everything we ask you to do, we do the things that you're supposed to do, you're going to have an amazing time, and we're going to have an amazing time and an awesome time as a family.
Thank you, everyone, for tuning in. Until next time, I'm Zain Ansari.
And I'm Abdullah.
Follow my family and I on social media, Holistic Mama D, and look out for my mom's book, The Holistic Arts, Your Guide to Healing Chronic Inflammation and Disease, and the amazing children's book we wrote together called Adam's Healing Adventures. So check it out on Amazon. Remember, our bodies and our health is a huge blessing, and we need to take care of our bodies the best we know how. Join us next week for another episode of the Holistic Kid Show, where kids are empowering kids.
Thank you, everyone.
Bye, boys. Bye, everybody.
Bye. Bye.